Good evening! It's Friday! We're back on track. We're back on schedule. My name's Danny. It says it right down here at the bottom of the screen. I can never point at it properly or accurately at all. This is Easy 8 and this is my online painting club. Thanks very much for coming along. If you're new here or if you're old and you don't remember what it's all about, Easy 8 Online Painting Club is merely just a place for people to gather, come and talk about their projects that they're painting, anything hobby related. Doesn't even have to be hobby related. It's just a great place to come for some chit chat, for some motivation and hopefully some inspiration. Just somewhere where you can relax and chill out live, knowing that someone else is going through sometimes some tedious work to get through, other times very exciting stuff to be doing. Comments live coming in already this evening. Adrian Dean, evening all regular viewers, as always. Thank you ever so much for coming along. Last week was a little bit different because we did it on a Sunday, because the world seems to be returning to normal in some cases, which meant that I was back to work and I'm still being sent all over the place to various places to go and do certain training things all very last minute, and of course you have to be able to say yes because that's kind of your job. But this week, all back on schedule. Had the day off. It's been nice to have a little bit of relaxing time in the sun. Got lots of things done. Jeff Lacey, oi oi, thanks for coming along. Nice to see you. Usually at this point I am joined by Kyle, and I got a message from Kyle a couple of hours ago who was really looking forward to coming along. Seems to be a rinse-repeat thing going on here, but Kyle, as we all know, if you've watched any shows before, Kyle is always extremely busy, and basically was all set to go this evening, but then in training there was a lot of books came out at last minute and apparently the work continues. Kyle did say that he hopes to be watching the show this evening along live while he's probably going through his work, hopefully, or maybe he is doing it, not necessarily hopefully, but perhaps he is doing it on the side whilst he's talking to some people, and then he's got the screen open on the side, maybe a bit of painting where people can't see. So Kyle, if you are watching, hope you're well, friend, and maybe we'll see you later. We do hope to have a catch up over the weekend, but dude, you're busy. Work is more important, and sometimes it does take precedence. But like Kyle says, this show is a great place for him and for you and anyone else to come along. It's just nice to be able to carve a couple of hours out of every week to get on with all the hobby stuff that you've been working on and looking forward to carrying on with. Once again, I've not really had a very busy week with painting because I haven't done anything. I've been up and down the country, all over the place, going to training things, picking up company cars. That was a really nice day out, actually. Got to drive a brand new car. That was very cool. Yeah, so I haven't really done anything. About the show this evening, I still could do loads of stuff on the Panther that I've been painting. If you're new and you haven't seen the episodes before, go back a couple of episodes and you will see that I've been working very hard on a 1/35th Panther. In fact, it is right here. There it is. But I've been doing it for a number of weeks, and it's slow progress, especially with work, etc. So I thought maybe I'd give it a rest this week. I have lots of other projects that I want to be cracking on, and I do like to make sure that I mix it up from time to time on the show. So this evening I've got a couple of Games Workshop's Tyranids Aliens to paint up today. I'm working on just some flat boring greys, which isn't going to be very exciting to go through. So I've got a new product which I haven't done a product reveal on it yet, and I'll show you this in more detail in just a second, up closer, and perhaps I'll have a little go and bust this bad boy and have a little practice. I normally like to do little product reveals or product reviews, etc., on stuff that I've not used before, because it's kind of nice to get that reaction, and go like, oh, this is really good, or oh, this is not what I expected, or this is terrible. But I think I just kind of need to have a go and do it, and then I'll do a product reveal on it perhaps later on. Ruben Garaby, there you go, more Tyranids. Excellent, Ruben, nice to see you. Ruben is from the States, so is many hours behind us. Dude, I'm so glad that you could come along and join this evening. It's so nice to see your name popping up, so thanks again for coming along. Yeah. Of course, this isn't all about me and the stuff that I paint. This is a social club. So what I would really like to know, and Kyle normally says it, but he's not here to do it today, is what are you guys working on today? I'd love to know what your projects are at the moment, what you're currently working on. We do, as you can see at the bottom of the screen here, we do have not only YouTube here, but we also have Instagram, where I put up some photographs of what I'm doing sometimes. But our most active platform is Facebook, and you can head on over there. You can look at what everybody else has been doing. You can look at some of the posts that I've put up. But there's a community tab there somewhere. click on that, and by all means flood it with all the photos. It's been going crazy over the past couple of weeks. I love it. There's like Nurgle tanks and disease-ridden machines of destruction. There's lots of little tiny tanks. Mate, there's so much stuff on there. I'm not going to ruin it all for you. Head on over, have a little look, and if you want to, you can post up your pictures up there as well and show us what it is that you're talking about. And you can also join in on the live chat just on the side of your screen there, where everyone seems to be really lovely and really helpful. And if you've got questions, then you can drop them in there. Maybe just want to have a chit chat. That'd be cool. So Ruben said, nice to see you again too. Excited to join you again. Yeah, man, I'm stoked. We're going around the globe. We've only got a small following, but going around the globe just makes me proper happy inside. I started a Space Marine army, so I've barely started working on that lately. Yeah, cool. Work, man, just kind of gets in the way of everything, doesn't it? But you seem to have a collection of everything, Ruben. I don't know where you managed to find the time to do all of that. Here's me like working on 3 models and I never seem to get anywhere. But hey, I live by the coast and I've got a new surfboard and I'm down there all the time. So yeah, that's what I'm doing with my life. My desk is just covered. I'm looking around it. It's just covered in wheels. I've got some wheels over here. I've got some wheels in the middle. I've got a whole pile of, yeah, they're falling around all over the place. Over here, I've got some more wheels. And then somewhere in the middle over here, I've got, oh, look at that. More wheels. That's, yeah. I've had a wheelie good time. Sorry, sometimes I need to have Kyle on the show. Oh, I love a pun. Right, so let's head on over to my workbench and I will show you what I'm working on today. So I've got my Arcana effects. This is the one that I ruined years ago. Go back a couple of episodes and you'll see me talking about it. I tried to save him and kind of carve him up because I put them together and it looked awful. I put them together all wrong. So I've kind of fixed them as best I possibly can. I'm not entirely happy with the way my fixes turned out. You can still see some like mold lines and things where I tried filling them and then sanding it all down. It just didn't work what I wanted it to. So I've done the best I can. Time to call it a day with all of that work. Sorry, my dinner is repeating on me. And yeah, got a couple of little, I tried experimenting with some like biological orifice openings to these gun things here. Basically, I'm just going to start painting them. I've been doing grey. All his grey is all blocked in. It's taken a couple of cuts, and where I'm handling it, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, it is, can I move my light in a bit closer? Yeah, it is starting to come away a little bit where I've been handling it, and that's brand new paint on this. So what I'm probably going to do with this guy is give him a quick matte varnish to seal that in there. Ruben says, the surfboard is a fair trade for painting. Got to balance those hobbies, and I appreciate the pun. Thank you very much. I love a pun. Yeah. I'm an absolutely awful surfer. I would actually go as far as to say that I can't surf. But I just like being out in the water, and it's just nice to get out, especially after almost an entire year of living indoors. I was one of those people that, I'm not going to say overly cautious. I think that might be a silly thing to say, but was just being sensible with just staying indoors as often as I possibly can, even though the weather was glorious. Because it's not necessarily just me, is it? There's other people around me, and I'd hate to think that, and you'd never probably know, but I'd hate to think that I'd cause harm to someone. So yeah, at the moment, just kind of getting out and enjoying the weather, because over here at the moment, it's beautiful at the moment. And a nice cup of tea there. Wonderful. Right, so I've also got this Trigon model. This is one of those lovely models that was so... I'm still speechless, but it was a very kind gift from one of our viewers, Leslie, who just gave me a massive box of Tyranids. Like I've said before, there's hundreds and hundreds of pounds worth of stuff in there. She didn't want it anymore, gave it all to me. So I've stripped this one down of all its paint, and I've been working on all the yellow colours. As you can see here, because it's a larger model, larger than all my other ones, I decided to kind of play around with a little bit of blending. So I've obviously got the yellow colour that you can see that's quite strong all over him. As it got closer to where these armour points are here, I tried to blend in a little bit of orange because I found this colour scheme from like an entertaining image, like a comic book drawing of a Tyranid called a Cutenid, and I thought the colour scheme was lovely. And when it gets closer to these armour plates and things around the back and under the head, it gets quite orangey. So I thought I'd give it a go, and I just used a couple of different orange colours, airbrushed them in gently. It looks quite strong at the moment because the orange is quite noticeable, quite sharp and poignant on these armour plates. But this is all going to become grey. So when the grey goes in there, that should soften all of these orange bits down, and there should be some nice blends of colours and yellows and oranges and things in there. So one of the things I'm going to be doing today is starting to block in the grey on him. Now, The Carnifex was a bit fiddly because it's got little spiky bits all over it. This one looks like it's got some big bold areas to paint. It should be fairly easy, but you know, it's got spikes here, here and here, all the way down the side, little spikes on the arms, under the elbows, and he's got these big mandible things and his big tail and lots of little spikes. I reckon actually it's going to be a bit of a nightmare to paint. So sometimes that happens in a hobby. Sometimes you just got to get through it all. So, well, that's what I'm going to be doing today, is just starting that trudge through through the block colours of painting. Once I've done a little bit on that, probably get a bit bored of it, I'll break it up a little bit, and then I'm probably going to seal this guy. I might just cover up those little edges again just to stop them from wearing off all the time. Give them a go with the airbrush with a bit of varnish, and then I'll probably come back and do a bit more on this guy. And then I'm probably going to come back in and do a little bit of this shader. I've spoke about it before. I haven't ever got around to doing a little product reveal on it yet. Basically this is an ink. It's for specific uses is in the airbrush. You crank the PSI right down and you just gently fade it in and it gives an almost imperceptible shading. You build it up over a period of passes and then you should get some really deep colours, and it should be all graded. The reason I'm doing it is because in the past I've had trouble with the wash for black and trying to make it very defined. It never really goes opaque enough for me, which is like a solid colour. And what I wanted to do is in the edges of all these armoured plates, I wanted to be a very definite line, and I wasn't really getting that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little play with this and see what it's like. I've got some paper to have a practice on so I can practice the flow rates, and that should be a bit of fun. Where it's going to be quite tricky is where it's getting into the smaller areas. I'm not very good with an airbrush, and I know that some people can get it very accurate, but yeah, I'm all clam hands and I just can't do it at all. So when it gets into these smaller areas, I might just kind of give it like a more of a general go over, might kind of blend in a bit more with some grey on a brush, and then maybe I will use some wash to kind of give a bit of a filter effect. And when you consider I've got to do the tops of these guns here, some very small armour plates on the top, that might get quite difficult. So yeah, it's just going to be a bit of fun and experimenting. You know me, I like to try new products, and this is a shader. Ash black, I stammer, from Ammo Mig Jimenez. So yeah, we'll give that a go. Excited. Absolutely loving my new sable brushes I bought obviously a couple of months ago. I spoke about these before. I've got some larger areas to do on this big Trigon model. So I'm going to put my Army painter brush away, my Wargamer Regiment brush, just for a moment. I'm just going to pop him over there, and I'm going to get out my Raphael Kalinsky brush. I'm also going to punch all my lights. There we go. Which has just got a bigger belly. It's going to hold a lot more paint on there. I just love these sable brushes. This was an expensive brush. This was about 20 quid. So I reckon if you're in the States, Ruben, probably something like this, probably going to be close to $25 to $30, depending on where you get it, obviously. We all know about Wargamer, Army painter, the Wargamer Regiment. These are, you know, a fraction of the price, but you know, wanted to try some different things. So I've got my wet palette to the side. I've recently changed the palette sheet in there, so I'm still trying to get my water ratios underneath perfect and dialed in, but just by touching the paper I can feel it's quite cool and a little bit moist to the touch, and I think that's really quite good. It was starting to dry the paint a little bit earlier on in there, which shouldn't happen. So occasionally I might have to stop and just drop a little bit of water underneath that piece of paper, but it seems to be going well. Right, so yeah, there we go. Ruben has said, I'm pretty bad with an airbrush myself. I use it mostly for zenithal priming. Yeah, I've done a little bit of that, but I've really yet to explore that side of the airbrushing at the moment. I might do some of that with some Space Marines or something, so I think about getting my nerd on with some Space Marines, and I might kind of do some zenithal lighting with those perhaps, and then just do like a black and white undercoat. So do black at the bottom for shadows, white on the top for the zenithal, and then do the colours over the top and see what it does. Especially with some of the Primaris models, which I've got a couple of, might be quite nice to kind of play around with that. Who knows? With these Tyranids, I just like the really big bold colours. So yeah, I just kind of do a lot of sort of washes and organic colours, because you can just go crazy with it. It's nice to kind of have different styles that you can go between when you're when you do like different types of models, etc. So I've got like my historical stuff with the tanks and things, which I just kind of like to play around with modulation colors, make them look fun and realistic. So not necessarily just realistic, but kind of do pre-shadings and stuff like that on them. When it comes to the Tyranids, I like to do not garish colors. I've never really been a fan of garish colors. I like, you know, bold colors on them, and I still like them to look quite animal at the same time. So random patterns are really cool. And then with my Space Marines, I kind of want to do something. I still want to keep it almost realistic, so I'm going to try and do like historical sorts of weathering and things like that. But I'm thinking about making them a little bit grittier, almost not comic booky, but I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Just a little bit. I don't know how to describe it. Fun, gritty, grimy, dirty, but kind of still cool. That is a really good cup of tea. Right, so I've got my paint mixed in with a little bit of water in my wet palette. Always add a little bit of water, even though it isn't a wet palette, but not too much, because a wet palette will put water into it over time, and the longer it's in there and the more you're using it, the runnier it gets. Runnier, I can't talk today. So a little bit of paint on the brush. I'm going to put a bit more water in there with the brush, mix it around until I get a nice consistency. Nice smooth consistency. Here we go. Probably leave it too runny now. I like to start on the back because it's a really big, broad canvas area to work on. So it's a great place for me to practice my consistencies and, you know, the thickness of the paint. And I can see there's loads. This is why I like this brush, is because it's got such a large belly. It holds loads of paint. I can spread it out a little bit. And I can see that the opaqueness, I can't talk today, the opaqueness is nice and thin. It's still giving really good coverage, but I'm going to have to go over it with another coat later on, which is exactly what we want. So yeah. Oh, it goes on so smooth. It's such a smooth brush. Definitely worth every penny. Or every cent, if you're in America over there. That's me being cultural. And hopefully with lockdown lifting and the world returning to normal, we can start getting some games in here. I know that Ruben over there in the States, you've actually been playing a lot of games because the rules over there are very different. COVID restrictions have almost completely gone away in some states as far as I'm aware. Lucky you guys get to play some games. Of course I do share a house with, you know, another gamer. But we lead lives and we don't always get to play. When it's your only opponent, you like to mix it up a little bit. It becomes a bit stale after a while, doesn't it? But it'd be lovely just to kind of get out there and play some games. And obviously where I work, there's a few nerds out there as well. A few geeks who, you know, love playing games. But we're all kind of, hands are all tied with restrictions at the moment. So the guy who normally runs our little club, we're very lucky at work to have the space to play it, so we play it at work. And he's been down to a local gaming store where they normally have a gaming club and spoke to those guys down there about what they think the rules are, because they're actually very vague about game clubs and social clubs and things like that. Sporting events is as close as it comes to, well, not really a sport, so to speak. My argument is, well, if it's not really there, then perhaps it should be a sporting event. If hobby clubs and social clubs like that aren't really included, then perhaps that's where we fall. But you got to be careful, and you've got to be kind to, you know, people. So he went down and spoke about it, and apparently there are some rules and guidelines, and we're not too far away anyway from being able to sort of return to a normal standard of living. We still have to wear masks and sanitize hands and stuff like that, but we will be able to meet indoors soon. So yeah, we had to get some games in. Anything, just to kind of see some people and have some fun, right? Have a beer or a coffee or just a chit chat. Nice to see some other people. So Ruben says, yeah, Texas is completely open. Some businesses still have restrictions, but my area is pretty safe. We have regular Thursday night game nights going. Oh, I'm so jealous. I'm so envious. It would be nice. It would be really cool if I could get a little bit like online painting club. I could get online gaming club and do something similar, actually play games online with people. But unfortunately, that might be a bit too much effort for my working life. If only I was to win the lottery, or someone was to donate me £1 million. Speaking of which, I won the Euro Millions the other day. So for our out-of-country cousins, the Euro Millions is just a European lottery where you can just win 100 million, if not more. And I played it the other day, and I woke up to an email going, "We've got some exciting news about your lottery ticket." Really? My partner rolls over in bed and says, "What are you reading?" I told her, and she instantly started reeling off all of the things that she was, going to ask me to buy. New surfboard, maybe a new herd, so on and so forth. The list got quite big, and I won £2.60. So yeah, not being able to give up my job right yet to start an online gaming club, but maybe it's something we can work towards. God, imagine 100 million. What would you do with it? Then I played the standard lottery the following day. Didn't win a penny. Sad. But my £2.60 has gone back into another ticket. So hey, watch this space. Next week, maybe I'll be coming at you live from the Bahamas. Who knows? Would I still run this if I won the lottery? Yeah, I think so. It's really fun. I enjoy it quite a bit. I might even make it daily. Who knows? Jeff Lacey says, with better weather here now, finding the paint is drying much quicker in the workshop. Yeah, it makes a lot of difference as well, especially in your workshop, because your workshop's in the attic of your house facing the sun, so it gets really hot up there as well. And in the winter, it just freezes and nothing dries, where sometimes like plaster might take half an hour to dry. In the winter it takes days. It's just, the difference is unbelievable, and we're in a temperate area as well. It's ridiculous. Jeanette says, evening. Hi Jeanette, nice, thanks for joining. Great to see you again. As you can see, it's just me here. I am tripping over my words all over the place, so I apologize for that, but as we said from the beginning, rough, raw and ready. Nothing special, but that's what makes it special. I'm enjoying this brush. It's very good. I get very nervous about using this brush, obviously because it's quite an expensive brush. It's a very expensive brush. Most expensive brush I've ever bought, if you discount, don't include the airbrush. When I'm kind of poking it in, I'm trying to be quite careful and soft with the bristles. That's where in the past I've used very, very cheap brushes for large coverage areas. It's a habit that I'm trying to not bring forward with this very expensive one. There we go. Struggle sometimes just to get it into some of the little recesses, because the primer that I use is white. Really shows if you miss a bit. But it's funny that you never see that really easy, the spot bit, when you're painting. It's only later when you come back to it and you go, oh yeah, look at that. Look at that bit that I missed. Why is that? Like primer's paradox. I just invented something there. You're welcome. Primer's paradox. Got a little bubble in that little bit there, like a little dent, like a little detail. There's a little bubble moving around and it won't go away. That's because there's a little bit, probably a bit too much water in just that little bit of paint there. It's just bubbling, and every time I pass over it, it comes back. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, it's doing my head in. Go away. I've actually moved it onto the end of the bristles of the... Get off! Say no to bubbles. what I might do, just to save my brush and be a bit more sensible about it, is in these giant cavernous stack things that are on the top here, is I might just get one of my cheaper, more rubbishy brushes and just fill it, just kind of cram it in there and save this wonderful brush here with the point on the end of it. It's just a part of those sort of cleaning standards and, you know, care standards of your brush, is that you don't want to be jabbing it into areas, even into the bottom of your clean water when you're cleaning it out in the jar or whatever container you've got to be cleaning it out. You don't want to be jabbing it, you want to be putting it on the bottom perhaps, or maybe just on the sides and swirling it around and cleaning it out quite regularly, which I haven't been doing so far because I've been concentrating on what I'm doing here. But I'm just going to get to the end of this little bit and then I'll just give it a little bit of a swish out, and I can feel it because the quality of this brush is so high. You can feel it when the paint's in there, it needs to be cleaned out and it starts to drag. I'm going to say it's almost imperceptible. That's not the truth. It's very subtle, but it's very noticeable. So yeah, this is one of my more rubbishy brushes that you can see that I don't really care about this thing. I use this one for, it's a real workhorse. I use it for unloading, pallets and things. Sorry, pallets, for, getting paint onto my palette. So yeah, let's give this one a clean. And I've also got some, nice brush cleaner. So at the end of my painting sessions, or if I've forgotten to do it during a session, then I've got something there to really help look after these brushes. Say it all the time. I don't think you can say it enough. Look after your brushes, especially if they're good ones. Jeff says 20 million. You could pay someone to paint your minis. Yeah, you could pay me if you wanted to. I'd paint your minis for 20 million. I don't want people to paint my minis for me. I mean, you could for 20 million. You could pay them to do almost anything, I bet. But I like the painting thing of it. I could, with 20 million, I could, do the studio up really nice, buy the house, and then just make this my job. That would be kind of a cool. But would I want someone to paint my models for me? No, I want it to be personal. That's the side of the game that I think I enjoy the most, is not just playing and winning or losing a game, but winning or losing with the stuff that I put on the table. But I'll still take the 20 million, so thanks very much. 20 million. Oh, every time payday comes around, it's like Christmas. Imagine what I'd do with 20 million. I remember some years ago in the Euro Millions, there was an old lady somewhere. I think she was in England. I can't be positive. She won 180 million. 180 million. That's a way of setting up the family for the rest of your days, isn't it? Might be enough to field all the Hormagaunts that I want to in my in my Tyranids army. I love Hormagaunts. I think they're wonderful. And of course, in my new box of Tyranids that was lovingly donated to me by Leslie. Thanks again, Leslie. Seriously, I can't thank you enough. I've got gargoyles in there, the new plastic gargoyle sculpts, and I've never had gargoyles before. Always quite like the idea of them, never really liked the models. I'm sure I said it a couple of weeks ago. Never really liked the old metal ones. And then when they resculpted them, just wasn't a fan of them still, even though they were probably better models to have on the table. Never really liked them, so I never really did anything with them, and I could never get around to painting anything that I wanted to back then anyway. So no point in buying something I couldn't do. But now I've got a whole box of them. I really got to pull my finger out and crack on a bit, right? I like this part of painting. This is where all the primer bits, all the white spots start to go, and the character of the model really starts to come together. And it's just starts to hide all the signs of, what's the best way of saying it? It always looks like it's unfinished. I know it is unfinished, but it looks like you've got such a long road to go when there's bits of primer sticking out all over the place. But it starts to bring it all together. Starts to hide all those, all those joins, all those bits and pieces that need to be connected. hides a multitude of sins, like anybody would know. It starts to really show what it's going to be like. And like I say, you get an idea of the character, the nature of what it's going to be like on the table, and that's the bit that I really look forward to. It's putting it on the table and your opponent goes, oh no, one of those, or man, that looks really cool. I still think it would be cool to play a war game with 1/35th models, for no other reason than the fact that they're just big and it would just be cool. But no, in my luck, I'd spend a year painting 1/35th Panther and I'd lose within 2 minutes. It'd be cool. I mean, the idea with something like that, of course, is you wouldn't want to play, you know, with lots and lots of models. You want to play with one, or, you know, one Panther, or against 4 Shermans, or whatever. But it'd be cool. Right. Well, that's the first untidy but layer of grey down on that little area. Some more comments going in. Ruben says, Trigons are such great models. I was wishing I had a few of those in my game against Imperial Knights last night. Yeah, I've never used one before. Obviously, I think this one here is a Trigon Prime, I think, because of the giant mandibles on it, but I don't care about that. If it's got mandibles or not, I'll use it as either or. There are rules benefits to having a Prime, like it's just a little bit better, but it's cheaper to have the non-Prime one. So I'll just, because I play in a friendly group of gamers, I'd just be like, this is not a Prime, this is a Prime, whatever, and my friends would be like, yeah, cool, these guys have got grenades, even though it doesn't look like they got them. Whatever, no one cares. But then, of course, there is the Morlock model as well, which has like a different head and it has a giant webbed mouth, and the idea is it kind of attacks in a subterranean fashion, kind of comes up from underneath you and just eats whole squads of people. I really like that. It goes back to the original Red Terror days, which is one of my favouriteest concept creatures. I've got a metal one upstairs that I stripped down from when I painted it years ago, and I've lost one of the little arms on it, so I don't know where that is. When I find it, I will be doing that one up as well. But I like the whole serpentine thing, I like the snaky thing, the attacking from under the ground. So yeah, been told that they're absolutely devastating on the battlefield as well. Really looking forward to just being a piece. But it seems like a long way away at the moment. Ruben goes on to say, I ended up taking I can't, so far away. My new Space Marines, my Nay Space Marines army, new Space Marines, and everything went terribly wrong, except my chaplain. He survived a charge by a knight, and then a round of shooting from another one. Only took 3 wounds. Wow! If you don't know what knights are, they're giant robots the size of buildings. So to have essentially a vicar with a gun on the battlefield taking rounds from giant building-sized robots, absolutely cracking. Yeah, that sounds. To be fair though, chaplains are nails, aren't they? Jeff, it says, do you need some cheaper brushes? I've got loads. No, actually, I think I'm at a point where I'm pretty happy with the amount and the types of brushes that I've got. Thank you very much. Maybe I will if I start doing some terrain or something, because we all know that you need a little bit more for that because you just go through them quicker. But I've got this one, which I use to take paint from a pot, and like I'm going to do now, put it in the palette, just because. Well, especially when you're using these Games Workshop pots, you have to go right to the bottom and just kind of scoop it a little bit out. And then, yeah, so I have this one. I use it for mixing and just all sorts of harsh work if I'm painting bases and stuff. The sort of stuff that you don't want to put your expensive brushes through. I've got a couple of others in the same sort of condition, and everybody seemed to use them, so no need really. So, a bit of water in there. Mix that in. Oh, I had a nice pizza for dinner, but it's giving me the hiccups, so apologies if all you can hear is me burping. I really am quite sorry. There we go. Lovely. That's a very yummy cup of tea. So I've just realised I haven't started the timer on my watch for the show. I always have a little timer on my wrist so that I know I'm not going to overrun. So if we overrun, really sorry, but hey, at least you get more content. Kyle, we need you. Right, so done that big armor plate there. What shall I do now? Shall I do the head or shall I do this bit here? Obviously this bit kind of goes on and on and on and all the way around the tail. Maybe I'll do the head and bring a bit of character, and that might be a good one to do because, well, the head's a focal point of the character, isn't it? Oh look, I missed a bit. That's what I mean. Why is it? Why do you never see that bit when you're painting? Why is it always later? God, I'm so rubbish. Here we go. Get that in there. And that little bit. Really like, I've never really done much with orange before. And it's a really nice colour to work with. Maybe it's an underappreciated colour. There we go. So what was I saying? Yes, the head might actually give me a bit of an impression as to the kind of the character a bit more. Make sure I'm in shot. There we go. That's my concentration voice, you know, where you don't hit anything. This brush is where it really shines. It's just kind of getting that really neat flow and spread. When I take my time with it, I want to go, I'm going to cover this whole plate here. I push them down, give it a little bit of a spread, and just draw them across. Oh, got a bit runny there to not perfectly demonstrate what I'm talking about. But as I pull him back, the bristles spread. But because he's got a large belly of bristles, it holds a lot of paint and it just flows. It just covers so neatly. It really has completely changed my experience with painting by brush. There we are. Let's push the belly down a little bit. And it is really thin. It is really thin paint. I've added quite a bit of water in there. It makes your paint last that much longer, and it gives you a really smooth flow. When I started using this brush, I understood that concept of paint flowing from the brush. It sounds like a bit of an odd thing to say. That's paint flow from the brush, but it's obviously the transference of the paint from your paintbrush bristles to the subject that you're painting. It made a lot more sense. What I like to do is just get like the vast majority of it down, cover like a large area, and then when I'm going around the outsides I'll just come back in, maybe sometimes with a smaller brush like my little regiment brush from Army Painter. I'll just kind of go around those edges just to make sure that I've got it all blocked in properly, especially when you're getting quite close to other colours that are really light and delicate like yellow and orange. I don't want this quite dominant grey colour to overspill onto it. Up here at the back of the head, it's slightly raised further away from the skin, if you like, and actually comes away from the back of the head entirely, so I can get actually just right over the edge there entirely. Just take my time. There we go. Looks a little messy at the moment, but that's okay. That's just the first pass. That can be quite demoralizing as well when you go like, right, I'm going to paint this whole area here, and that whole one thin coat thing looks quite messy, and you're like, oh man, I'm just not a very good painter. No, you're a fine painter. Don't fret. That first coat always looks patchy. Just take the time to go around the outside afterwards and just make sure that the paint goes right up to the edges where you want it to go. I could of course be talking complete rubbish, but this is that sort of internal dialogue that happens with me all the time when I'm painting. Is that I'm fairly certain I'm going about it the right way, but it always feels, especially with, like I say, that first layer makes it feel like that, oh, I'm not doing it right. But I know I am. Or at least I know that the results are going to change later on. And I'll get there. There we go. And while I'm there, I'll just get rid of that paint off onto that carapace up there as well. So there we go. Look, we're starting to, you can get a bit of an idea now of the kind of colours that are going to be here. At the moment his mouth is very bright and very yellow. It's going to be very sort of pink, not bright pink, it's going to be quite subtle. The sort of brain colours I used on the zone thrips, if you remember. So I'm going to paint it Screaming Skull, which is like an off-white colour, stain it with a little bit of sepia, with a little bit of crimson. That'll give the pink look on the tongue and inside the mouth. And I can do like double coats of the crimson to kind of make like the roof or the palate of his mouth quite heavy and dark, make the tongue quite light, and the teeth would just be like a nice stark off-white colour with a bit of sepia or Agrax earth shade in there to kind of make those stand out from the rest of the colour scheme. I'm also going to have these mandible-y bits here grey as well, because it's the colour that I use for all of its armour. Anything that I suppose would be, well, it's probably not on these creatures keratin, or rhino horn, I suppose probably is something much more alien, and we don't know what it is, but you know what I mean. When I was designing my scheme, I kind of sat down with a pen and paper and was like, right, what colours are things going to be? I want to make sure that I'm making as much of a plan in advance of painting before I get there, then rather than making it up on the spot. So for example, on these claws, these talons, they have armor plates on them, but then they have the talon. I've seen some people do very successfully, like armored plates, different colours, like make the spikes or the blades, if you like an off-white colour, and then do like armored plates on top of different colour. But I just decided to do it all the same. Less is more. Not always, but for me, I find it. Also, it's just less work to do. Alright, so yeah, I like teeth to be an off-white, and I like all the armor plates to be kind of grey. And then it's about how you paint them, how you differentiate all the greys, and that's through highlights and stains and washes and inks and things. The Broodlord was a particularly difficult model because he has grey claws on his feet, but stands on some sort of tyrannid plant thing, like a capillary tower, and that's also grey, but I wanted there to be a distinction between his foot and the thing, so it didn't kind of just all blend off. I don't know if I ever really pulled it off that well. The whole model I'm very, very pleased with, but there are some little details like that yeah, still bother me. But like Adrian said a few weeks ago, is a model ever really finished? No, of course not. You have to call it at some point, don't you? Right, now all you can see really, I suppose, is the bottom of this base, but I'm just trying to paint the undersides of the mandibles quickly. I can see we've got some comments going, and I'll just have a little read through those in just a second. Really nice point on the end of this brush, just to get really close to those details. Take your time, Danny. There we go. That pays off, right? And then the last mandible there. It's a bit more paint. Just make sure I've got everything on the inside in there as well, because that's probably where I'm going to miss something and it will stand out later. There we go. Okay, so mandibles, head, back carapace. Now there's a couple of other little details on the front, like he's got little mini carapaces on his chest. And is that the thorax bit down there? Yeah, abdomen, thorax, and there's lots of little spikes and stuff over them. I'll come back and do the spikes at the end, because I consider there's like a little after detail. So I might do the 2 chest pieces here, and then do the arms, the talons on the arms perhaps, and then I'll probably work my way all the way down the back here, and then finishing up on the big tail claw, which I really like that tail claw. Looks kind of really cool in insectoid, insectoidy. Which is probably, yeah, also very wrong. So Jeff says, are you going to put any glossy, wet-looking bits on it? Yeah, good question. I don't know. I've toyed around with it. Ruben, if you're ever to look at some of Ruben's Tyrannus, has done that really cool effect with the Yoo-hoo stringy glue to make it look like saliva or slime or whatever, and he's done it really, really well. It's not that I don't like it. I think it looks phenomenal, but I was just trying to stay away from things that have become very traditional or quite popular. Just kind of wanted to keep it simple. I was playing around with different types of glosses, or not glosses but varnishes, like gloss varnish or satin varnish, and trying to make them set certain things out. So I might do like a satin varnish over all the grey parts of it later on, just to make them look a little different. I don't really know yet. Let's see what happens. It probably is going to be much more noticeable on bigger units, so this kind of effects that I'm doing and this trigon, probably the perfect ones to try that out on. But first, obviously, I've got to paint them. But yeah, I think it would look really cool. Gloss might be the wrong way, so I think semi-gloss or satin gloss will probably be the best one to use. But I am tripping over my words, so I'll try to not say satin gloss anymore. Right, let's put the wet palette away for a second, because I want to give the Carnifex a bit of a spray. So I've got this piece of paper that I just use for all my spraying, because I don't like spray to go all over the place. And I will just give him a bit of a matte varnish, I suppose, just to seal the paint in. But I have not got my matte varnish out, have I not? Nope, I do have a big box of varnishes down here somewhere. So many paints. There's a gloss varnish. I don't want a gloss varnish. Oh, I've got a satin varnish, which might be quite good. Give that a bit of a go, perhaps. Crackle medium. Nope, don't want any crackle medium. Matte varnish. Okay, cool. That's my big surprise box underneath the workbench down there. Right, so I've got, these fellas. I've got a gloss varnish. These are all Vallejo. They're super easy to get hold of. Gloss, satin, and matte, and they just basically have different finishes on them. Gloss being super shiny, matte being super flat and not shiny, and satin is somewhere in the middle. So maybe I'll give him a bit of a go over with a satin. Satin and glosses are actually really good amongst historical painters, because they're really good for putting decals on. And also good for putting weathering and sort of washes and things on as well, because it's just much easier to control on the surface that a gloss will provide. Basically, the way that a gloss varnish works is that it's just thicker, so it sets with less microscopic topography, if you like. So there's less microscopic bumps and stuff all over it. Those bumps refract light or reflect light in different directions, and it just kind of makes it look matte because the light's not coming straight back up at you. Gloss is just like a shiny glass thing. It reflects directly back at you because there are less lumps and bumps all over it. So really good for putting transfers on. If you're struggling with Space Marines and the shoulder pads and putting decals and things on there, then gloss varnish is a really good way to start, and then be using certain thinners and things that you can use. So just going to give this a bit of a shake, and then I'm just going to get the airbrush out. Wicked. Let's give this a go. Not really counting any drops, I'm just putting an amount in the bottom of the hopper there. And I don't ever really thin my varnishes down because they just seem to go really quickly. So I'm really concerned about just getting it on the top more than anything. It's really hard to see where it goes, so I try to get the light. That's why I'm moving it around quite a bit. It's really quite difficult to see. So by moving the model around, I'm looking at the reflections. And it's really hard with matte because it dries without much of a shine. So you're looking for the wetness. And it can be quite tempting to go in quite heavy to make it, you know, denser. But if you do that, you run the risk of ruining your detail. And it's also really difficult doing it with noise cancelling headphones on as well, because I take a lot of audio cue from this airbrush. Okay, I think that's the back done there. These acrylic Vallejo varnishes you can apply by brush, so I'm being quite heavy-handed with the application of this satin, but if I was to do more matte, I could come back in with a brush and do all the carapace, pick all that out quite easily with a brush. It wouldn't be much of a problem at all. Check I've got, yep, still got stuff in there. The noise changes when you run out. That's one of my audio cues that I pick up, is the sound that the airbrush makes when I've run out of paint. I can't hear it half the time. All these little spikes, all the little surfaces that you handle, they kind of dig into your skin a little bit, just gently, is enough to knock all the paint off of them. So those are really the areas that I'm trying to prevent from losing the paint. And obviously you can see it here, just the top of these like stacked chimney things on the back of him. The varnish is just enough to seal it in. Being quite heavy-handed. No rhyme or reason. Just trying to get a good coverage. Being quite aggressive with it. Right, well there we go. Almost out. You can see it shiny on the paper there quite clearly, but on the model quite difficult. There we go. Right, now it's really important to give this airbrush a really good clean after that, because this is not necessarily like a normal paint. It's a resin, and it dries differently, and it's really quite hard to clean, and it will block your airbrush up something rotten. Where's my cleaner? So after doing a little session of varnish, we'll use neat cleaner. If I'm going to use cleaner in there regularly, I will use 50/50 watered down. I just make it in my own little dropper bottles, and often flush just paint through between colours. I flush it through with just water. But this stuff, I like to give it a really good work through with neat cleaner. because I'm rubbish at cleaning my airbrush out properly. So yeah, often worth giving it a little bit of an agitation with a brush inside there as well. So that's what I'm going to do. This is another one of those uses that I have my rubbishy brush for. It's just by sticking him in the hopper here where all the paint is, either mixing paint in with thinners and things like that, or just by kind of trying to clean the inside of my airbrush out. And I'll be quite brutal with it as well. So yeah, it's really good to have just a rubbishy brush for it. I call it a rubbishy brush, but actually it does a lot for me. It's a very efficient, very useful brush. It'll be with me to the end of its days. So that's neat cleaner gone through there, and now I'll just go through with a couple of passes of water, and hopefully that'll be enough just to kind of get rid of whatever's in there. And because it's clear, it's really hard to see as well. So when you strip the airbrush down for cleaning, you can't really tell unless it's built up enough that it kind of goes like milky white. So we are pretty close to having an intermission, a great opportunity for you to go and change your paint water. You should definitely go and change your paint water. If you need to stretch your legs or refocus your eyes, or just go let the cat in, then perhaps now's a really good chance to go and do it. I am just going to do another pass with this water through the airbrush, and then I'm probably going to do a little bit more brush painting on the grey of my Trigon, and that'll give the satin varnish that I've just applied enough time to dry. And then I'm going to have a little go with this shader ink from Ammo MIG. First time I've ever used it, so if you're really keen to have a little look at that, make sure that you're back here in about 10 minutes. So yeah, I'll see you then. Stay safe for now. Bye bye. And I'm back! Great little interval. Didn't go anywhere. Just been painting the whole time. Things are going really well over here. I hope things are going really well on whatever project you're painting this evening. Don't forget to let us know. You can join in the live chat, or you can head on over to Facebook. You can drop in photos of what you're working on today in the community tab, and let everyone kind of have a little look at what you're doing, discuss what you're working on, and kind of get some critique or just some celebration if you want to. Join in the live chat. A couple of people in over there today. Nice slow chilled one today, which is kind of what I think I needed. Don't want to be rushing ahead on anything. Don't want to be getting out of control. Just got a lot of work to do, and a nice evening of just kind of chilled out painting is exactly what I need. Obviously got the music here. Sometimes I can just zone out. I'm grateful for the company, so thanks for coming along. If you're new here, Easy 8 isn't a tutorial. It's just a place where people can come as like an online painting club, where you can just try and discuss what you're painting. Just know that someone else out there is painting live at the same time, because sometimes it's just a lot of monotonous work to do. You can find us on YouTube, you can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on Instagram. All our regular posts are always up there. Facebook is often the most active of our platforms. If you do like what we do, then please, maybe just like and follow what we're doing, or maybe if you would like to consider giving us a subscribe. Every little bit really does help and goes a long way to making this channel that little bit better every single time. So yeah, maybe share the word, tell a friend, bring someone along next time, get your kids involved, because this is a kid-friendly show. So yeah, let us know what you've been up to. I've just been painting some grey on my Trigon. I'm just trying to get to the end of that little bit of paint that I've got in my palette over here. Starting to run a little bit thin, so I thought I'd get through that quickly. So let me take you back over to the workbench. Here we go. So I've just been kind of blocking in these colours. It's all a little bit washed out at the moment, but we're starting to get some character in there. Let me bring my lights in a little bit closer. There we go. That's a bit better, isn't it? Oh, a little bit too far. There we go. So yeah, we can see that a bit all washed out now. Never mind. So yeah, I've got the carapace on top of the head done there, and that kind of has a nice definition of colour against the yellow and the orangey sort of colours that are in there. I've got the back mostly done. Does need another coat on there, and I've just started working on the back of the main tail, because I've done the two little bits on his front in there as well. I'm going to come back and do the claws afterwards, I think. So what I'm just trying to do is just trying to get this little bit of grey out of my palette, just because I think I've overwatered it. I don't want to mix up anymore, because I just want to have a little go on the Carnifex now and play around with that ink, have a little look what's going on with that product. So yeah, I think if I maybe make it to the end of this plate here, that does seem to be, because it's got little spines on the back there, and then it kind of changes a little bit. So it's just a good place to leave it. Come back to it in a minute. There we go. Really basic covering of paint. Doesn't have to be anything ridiculous at the moment. Doesn't have to be super good, have a great coverage. Doesn't have to be all that neat and tidy. Obviously I don't want it to go on other colors, but yeah, cool. So that's that for a moment. Darren Venomous has just joined us. Hi Darren, thanks for coming along, man. Nice to see another face. Excellent. We do have our regular viewers. That is lovely, isn't it? I'm going to pop my Trigon. Where can I put him? Because I'm taking up so much space with this palette. Let me move these products out of the way, and I'll pop you over there. Need to have a name for my Trigon as well. Let's have a little competition there. A name for my Trigon. All options considered, as long as it's safe. Trigon face is appropriate as far as I'm concerned. Right, okay, so I'm really looking forward to this. Ash Black shader, like I said a minute ago, is specifically designed for the airbrush. Hopefully my airbrush isn't blocked with that satin varnish. Wonderful. The idea is that you just crank that PSI right down, and you just take it nice and gentle. So I've got a plain sheet of paper here. Cool, that's bright, isn't it? Yeah, watch the autofocus. Change on that, on the auto brightness. Right, so on my airbrush, I'm just gonna take the pressure right down. Just gotta, there we go. the idea is that you're barely working on any airflow. You just want it to be nice and gentle. Now I'm totally unpracticed with this in any form, so I don't know how it's going to act. I don't know if it's going to spit or come out, you know, bubbly or anything like that if I don't put the right pressure through it. It just said it's an acrylic-based paint specifically formulated to apply shadows with the airbrush. Shake well before using directly from the bottle. Airbrushed shaders dry completely in 24 hours. For a more transparent effect, it can be thinned and cleaned with water. So if I wanted to, I could just add a drop of water into it. I've got little dropper bottles here, which I use for cleaning out the airbrush. I suppose they'll probably be really good. Right, I'm really looking forward to opening this because I'm hoping it's going to make like a little fresh coffee pot crack sensation when I open it. Oh, it didn't. Never mind. So we've got some names coming in for the Trigon. Adrian says, Tilly the Trigon. I quite like that. Jeff put Steve. Yeah, everyone's called Steve, aren't they? Steve the Trigon. Right, so here we go. Opened. Got a little dropper bottle on there. Unlike most ammo paints, it doesn't have an agitated bottle inside. Perhaps it doesn't need it. But you can see already that just at the top of that, I suppose the spout there, it's really quite an intense colour, and that is exactly what we want from an from an ink. So I'm just going to put like a couple of drops in here because I don't know how far this is going to go. 1, 2, and I think just 3 for now. So really easy to control dropper bottle, which is quite nice. And I'm just going to test it on this piece of paper just to get an idea of the airflow. I'm going to take my protective of that, like the tip shield off, so that I can get in there and clean it if I need to. I always have like a little cotton ball which I can just kind of stab into, just kind of give it a clean. I don't like using cotton buds like the ones on sticks. I just think they're really bad for the environment. So yeah, I try not to use them. So here we go. Let's just nice and gentle. Right, well that comes out. If I just get a bit of airflow going, just pull back the needle ever so gently, getting quite intense colour. If I don't put enough power on it, I do get these little spatters. It's quite hard to see, but I am getting lots and lots of well, it's just a spattering effect. It's quite hard to see there because my lights bleach it all out. If I bring it up closer, can you see the spattery effects in the light there? So I don't want that. What I'm really trying to get is a really gentle effect, which I can just layer bit by bit. So yeah, you can just see this patch here. I'm going to turn that pressure right down again. That's better. That's really good. Okay. Can I write my initial? Yes, I can. Check that out. Okay. I don't want to go in heavy. I don't want to just kind of give it one big burst, because if I did, you kind of lose a bit of, you get too much spread in there, probably because it's such a thin product. So the idea, I think, if I'm just going to keep on going, I've got this D here for Danny, yeah, I'm just going to keep on going over it at that pace, nice and thin, and see how long it takes to build the intensity of that colour up. Oh, I'm spattering again here. Let me just clean the needle off. Doesn't take long. The closer I get, the more needle point I can make effect. to get quite close to get that, because it has such a spread on it. It's really quite easy to kind of get that. You can see that colour, really wide burst there. If I pull the trigger right back, oops, yeah, so it's really quite easy to over spray. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get in real close. I'm going to see if I can do an E and an 8 for easy 8, in case you were wondering. Okay, cool. Right, let's see. Nice and gentle. Oh, and that's why I practice. It's because clearly I'm not that good. It might just be that I've got a little bit of I don't know, a little bit of varnish stuck on the needle, or a little bit of the actual ink itself is drying on there. Let's see. Well, those 3 drops of ink go a very long way. Never been able to draw right very good 8s. They always come out wonky. So it feels that I need to be able to, I have to pull the trigger, push the trigger right down for maximum airflow at a really low pressure to avoid that kind of spattering effect. So if I come right in close now, full airflow, and then just a little bit of paint. Yeah, it's very difficult. Can get some very sharp lines. I wonder if I've got to turn the pressure right down even more. Let's try again. Oh, I just moved the table. Pull the table back. There we go. Let's try another 8. Okay, well, let's have a little practice by turning the pressure right up. Not right up, but right up to standard, where I would normally work with. Trying to make sure that my needle is pushed right forwards, because I've made this mistake before. Okay. Well, I seem to get a better effect with the pressure turned up, which is interesting because when I researched this product, I actually had all the advice was to put the pressure right down, but that just kind of gives me this very uncontrolled spatter effect, which is what I'd expect actually. Again, if I bring it up nice and close to the camera, you might be able to see that it's actually quite untidy. But if I'm doing it here, this little bit, it's much easier to kind of control in terms of a spatter if I get in really close, I can make some really pinpoint lines. So I think it's more about just flow control. So that's what I'm going to try. I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to be bold and just do this. So turn that over. So I don't know where to start. I don't know where to practice. I do often like to practice, on the backs of these things because they're just so large. But is that the best place to practice? Maybe this claw over here is. I don't know where to start. I'm so nervous. What do you guys reckon? Where should I start? Gonna give you a second to put some answers in. Maybe just in here. So in and around this area here, and I can actually make it quite intense and dark. And of course, if there's any overspill, I can just get some more grey paint and just come in and blend it off and neaten it all up. Actually, does it like it could do with another coat just over the top over here. I'll sort that out later. So the idea is to make it really quite rich and intense right up against the edges inside, and then fade it out so it comes out to about this sort of area here, and then I can kind of blend it if I need to with more paint. So yeah, that's the plan. No one's giving me any suggestions. Okay, I'm just gonna go for it. So don't ruin the yellow. Good motto, good credo. Okay, not too shabby. Not too shabby. A bit of neatening up there with the brush in a minute, but that'll be fine. Okay, because it's so thin, it's really, really runny. So if you start to get a little bit of build up, it does start to kind of run away and bead, but that's okay. Jeff go for it. Yeah, cool. Why not? Yeah, and we can see that it just looks like quite a big thick line in there. And I might actually combine this with the Null Oil, which is the Games Workshop wash or shade, to kind of get some blended effects in there. This is just to really enhance those sort of carapace overhangs, if you like. Overhangs, that's a good word. And we all know I don't have the steadiest of hands, so this is actually quite tricky. We bring those lights in a bit closer. Oh, there we go. It's a bit better. There, you can see a bit easier now. Cool, nice. And of course I can actually do some sort of shading as well, so I could do some shading around these, I like to call them barnacles, but I suppose they're actually like spikes in the front. They're kind of like fire forwards, I suppose. So I could do a bit of shading in and around there. That'd be quite cool. But first of all, I want to try and make sure that I get quite quite steady and practiced with this. Okay, I'm starting to get the hang of it. This is quite good fun. I don't know if there's an advantage to using this over pre-shading, which I've got quite good at for an amateur. It's very easy to kind of give too much in it, or it starts to run. And I do have to clean the needle off occasionally because it is starting to build up on there quite dramatically. Maybe I will add some water in the next go and see what the differences are that kind of gives it. But as you can see, it's starting to make some definition in there. Really quite pleased with that. I'm going to try and pulling away a little bit and try and build it up softly over a bit more time, because the effects that I've seen actually with these particular colours from someone who had painted, I think it was always actually was it a kind effects, or was it one of the bigger monster creatures like a Maliceptor perhaps? It looks stunning, and they just said build it up over time, layer upon layer upon layer, so you can almost see it to start with. So I think I'm going way too fast. So okay, I'm going to start over at the back end here. Okay, still probably going too fast, but it's going to take a lot of practice. It's just fun. just blast everything. Okay, cool. There we go. That is steady. Nice. I hope that's really coming out, like the progression of that coming out really well on camera. I know I lose a lot on these cameras and these lights. Oh, and I just ruined everything. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm really starting to enjoy myself now, because now I'm starting to really get it into the little cracks, etc., that are at the bottom of the carapace lines, if you like. So I can now really start to just add a little bit of shadow and definition into these areas, and actually be quite generous with overspill, because I can blend it in later on. And I'm going to come in with some highlights later on. Yeah, that's really quite cool. And this is still 3 drops. Oh, got a bit of reflection from the lights there. I can't really see what I'm doing. There we go. That's better. Okay, got to clean the needle off every so often, because it seems to dry really quickly on the needle. And you can see little dots where I don't know, maybe you can, little dots where I stab into the cotton with the needle there. Right, that's looking really quite cool. I can see on the camera that actually just looks like quite thick lines, but actually here there is an element of gradient, if you like, in there, and I'm going to try and build on that the more I get in there. Michael Turner's just joined us. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for coming along, Michael. Nice to see some friendly faces. Leslie Stebbings also here. Hello, everyone. That kind of effects is looking cool. Thanks very much, man. Wow, look at our view count going up. It's a nice chilled out evening this evening. We've got fewer viewers this evening, and it's just, I think people are just kind of really concentrating and getting through their backlogs, which is sometimes a rather depressing thing. So for those of you that have just joined us, this product that I'm using here is a product I've never used before. This is from Ammo MIG. It is a shader. It's basically an ink that is designed for the airbrush. It's taken just a little bit of practice, and the idea is that you can get some really soft and striking effects with shading. And I'm using it obviously on my Carnifex's carapace here. I'm trying to find a solution to Nuln Oil, which I've just struggled with. So I'm just trying to get some nice intensity, and I'm not overly fussed at this stage about it being a little bit messy, even though you should be quite precise with this, because I know that I can just go over with a brush later on and just kind of blend it back in. I'm trying obviously to not make too much work for myself by having to come back later on and do more stuff, but if it's going to make it look cool, then I'm all for it. Oh, a bit heavy there. Take your time. There we go. That's so soft. And just by pulling the airbrush away a little bit, I thought I'd have to get in quite close, but actually to get those intense marks, just let it build up, and it goes quite quickly. Like that. Don't really know what I'm doing there. I'm just kind of trying to make some sort of pattern around those details, and then maybe later on I'll just come back with a brush and just sort of highlight those areas a bit back to the base color, and I'll kind of maybe get the effect that I'm looking for. I'm a little unpracticed to really be good straight off the bat. Again, getting a little bit of spatter there. Clean that needle off. Some more comments going in. Leslie says, well, you're doing a good job. Oh, thanks very much. And I've used Nuln Oil loads, so I know what you mean. But for a first time use of a new product, that's looking awesome. Thanks very much, man. Oh, such a kind community. Loving it. I'm just one of those guys who just likes having a go with new stuff, and then really ruining it. I can't talk today. Ruining. There's so many different products out there, and so many of them do like different things but achieve the same sort of effect. And it's just worth picking up one every now and again and going, okay, I'm gonna have a go at this. But this was actually to find a solution to a technique that I was struggling with. To be fair, I don't struggle with most GW stains, or wash shades they call them. It's just Nuln Oil. It just seems to run away with me, and I can't control it, and it just looks rubbish. And I don't know if that's the paint or if it's just me, but Kyle was saying a few episodes ago that across the community people do struggle with Nuln Oil, specifically Nuln as well, not necessarily any of the other GW shades. But then some people get some really good effects out of it, especially on metal. Not on metal models, but on things that are painted to look metal. Okay. I'm really happy with this. And this is still going just 3 drops. 3 tiny little drops in the airbrush. This product is going to go for miles. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of just build up quite a heavy layer inside these stacks, if you like. Mike has left us with a statement that says, "None what? Never used it. But to be fair, I'm still getting back into it after 15 years. The airbrush beats 20 million layers method." Yeah, it does. And that's what I originally bought it for. Painting yellow is a renowned problem colour, so I originally bought it so that I could just get through big monsters and hordes of little things quite rapidly. Did it with some success, and now I've been painting all the historical stuff, all the tanks, and learning different techniques, and I've just been really enjoying the process. It's been a struggle to get there. I've learned a lot of mistakes the hard way. I like that. Just ruined the model in one go. Fortunately, I can neaten that up a bit later. Let's just clean that off there. Just blow a bit of air in there. Yep, see? There you go. Unscripted. But Nuln Oil is a Games Workshop shade, so it's one of the watered down washes. I just struggle with it as a colour. I don't know what it is about the colour. It just seems to want to run away from me. I can't control it. I often get a lot of tide marks. And it's never intense enough when I want it to be really intense. So when I try to put it underneath like the carapace overhangs on this Carnifex, it always seems slightly transparent, like slightly translucent, more than what I want it to be. So I bought this ink to be much more intense and to be much more opaque. I wanted a really striking contrast line to go, here's the end of one carapace line, here's the next carapace, and then I wanted to be able to fade it out. And I saw someone using this product in exactly the same colours as what I'm using here to great effect, and I was like, that is the product that I want. Try and get myself in shot here, there we go. Okay. Oh dear. Yep, ruined that bit. Okay, I'm just going to try and kind of cover that whole area with a bit of this ink, just so I can come back in later on and neaten that out with a brush nice and tidy. There we go. Okay, cool. Ruined it again. Right, so yeah, really happy with how far this is going. Ruben, if you're still watching, I would love for you to be able to have a go at this as well, because I know that you paint Tyranids and you use an airbrush as well. See if you can get some. It's really cheap. It's really, well, it certainly is here anyway. It's really affordable. It's just a couple of quid for that one bottle, and it's going to go for a long time. It's just get a colour that you shade with or wash with in your particular colour scheme, and just give it a go and see what you think. Okay, I'm losing the control a little bit now. I'm probably going a bit trigger happy. Just try and clean that up with a bit of a pulse of air. Okay, I just want some soft transitions now. I just want to kind of blend out a little bit what I've got. Okay, I'm happy with that, if I haven't said that already. It's going to be very different from the rest of my Tyranid force, but I'm okay with that in the face of progression. It has got quite a glossy sheen to it, and I wonder if that's because it hasn't dried fully, because it does say on the bottle that it takes 24 hours to fully dry, which I find quite unusual for an acrylic paint. Anyway, it's quite hard to get a full appreciation for that again under the studio lights. Let me just see if I can bring a light in here, get a better idea of how that's going. Cool, yeah, stoked, brilliant. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit of practice to try and get quite steady with it, especially on like smaller areas like the tops of these guns. There's some very, very fine carapace details on there. The shock horror. I've also got to control my trigger finger, because that's just a burst. But I might just be able to kind of blend that out with a bit of a layer paint later on. Let's have a little go on the kind of crabby claw over here. Leslie put in. Quite a few of you put in some more comments. Jeff said, "What's it like to paint on a paintbrush?" Yeah, do you know, I'm going to give that a go in a second. And Leslie says, "Still have to say, loving the way it looks. It's going to look killer when it's complete, dude." Yeah, I hope it's going to look killer. I don't make nice Tyranids, but yeah, thank you very much. Some nice statements there, thank you. Am I actually in shot? No, I'm not actually in shot there. Okay, cool. Sorry. It's very hard to focus on this and the camera at the same time. That's going a bit too fast there. Now on this side. That's the sort of flow I want there. Taking quite a long time to build up. But when it does, such a stark colour. Really intense. Okay, cool. Again, very hard to see on camera. I will take pictures of this at the end, so that you can see exactly the progress I've made with a bit, maybe better lighting, as I always do. And what I'm going to practice in a minute is, so for example, what I'm about to explain, if I don't point, it'll be quite hard to see, is, so I've sprayed this ink into the recesses where I want it to go, but it sprays over the area. What I want to do is I want to leave that overspray to give that blending effect. I want to leave it going in that direction, but I want to kind of cut it off on the top of the higher plate, if that makes sense. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the original grey colour, and I'm just going to paint right back over here, making sure that I don't cover over the bit that I want to leave, and right up to the edges, and then that should give a very, very stark contrast. So I'm going to use my army painter brush here. I'm going to get a little bit of grey paint out of my, I'm going to put it in my wet palette. I'm going to use the army painter brush because it's just a bit smaller than the Raphael Kalinsky brush, and it's probably just going to offer me a little bit more control. in terms of placement and where I'm going to put it, because the brush size difference is quite big, really. Okay, let's give this a go. Oh, I'm really excited. New techniques, new results, developing as a painter. Okay, so I'm going to practice on this little bit here. Don't know if you can see that, but it's absolutely perfect. I am absolutely stoked by this as a product. For sure, it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, and because there's a little bit of tidying up, which is mostly down to the fact that I am not very good at controlling the flow of the paint, so it's going to take a little bit of extra time to clean up and redefine, but that is fine. I've got quite a watered down paint by brush here, and it's really helping the blending process. Obviously, with smaller models, would be very time consuming and difficult to achieve, so I would practice on bigger models, which is why I've waited till now to do it on the Kind Effects and the Trigon. You probably would have to develop a better way of doing it for the smaller things. That is absolutely stunning. I am really chuffed with that. I know for a fact that my camera is not picking that up as well as I can see it in front of my face, and it's a real shame. It's just one of those things. I think what's happened as well is I've ever so slightly reanimated the ink, because it takes such a long time to dry. It says it takes up to 24 hours, and that's really helping the blending process. So it's just, yeah, I can't get over how effective a paint scheme that is. And if I just quickly move down to this bit down here as well, and I should do the next plate too. And then I'm going to combine this with the technique that I used on my zone thropes, where I got a brighter grey and then used that to kind of create false lines. I think it just looked really good. And I'm also going to add in a third colour. So I've basically, in the past, I've done, head on over to Instagram and you'll see the pictures of my zone thropes. I've basically done a dark grey and a light grey and created these false lines, if you like. But the contrast is a little too stark, so I'm going to do like a middle grey, and then I'm going to do the light grey that I've normally used over the top of that, so it just kind of breaks the contrasts down a little bit. And I think with the addition of this ink, it's just going to be, I think it's going to be really pretty. And to be honest, this is exactly what this Kind Effects needed, was just a little bit of love. Oh, I'm addicted. Just a really nice smooth application. A little bit extra water, just a touch. Nothing amazing, nothing too heavy, and it's just really helping blur those transitions into a real nice fade. Absolutely stunning. I've realised I've not probably really been in a shot there, because I've really got into that and really focused, so apologies. Yeah, that is absolutely mind-blowing. give it a go. That is shader, ash black colour, but there's lots of different colours out there from Ammo MIG. It's just a couple of quid. I can't remember where I bought it from actually, but a few episodes ago I did talk about where I bought it from. All of the places that I buy all of my products from are actually in the description of this video, so head on over and have a little look, or just type in Ammo MIG shaders. If you have an airbrush, really handy. Of course, I was just asked a question, and that is, how does it paint by normal brush? That's a really good question. Washes out the brush really well as well. Okay, cool. So I've got a little bit left in the airbrush. I wonder how far that's going to go as well. So let me just move the Carnifex model out of the way. Oh, I just want to be painting that all night now. It's great. So I put 3 drops, for those of you that were late to the show, I put 3 drops of this product in here, 3 tiny little drops, and I've done all my practices with it. I've done all of that model, and it's still going strong. So it's just, there was loads left in there. That was at full blast as well. It looks like it dries really fast on paper, but it takes a long time to dry on the model. So I'm just going to put a little bit of cleaner in here a minute before I go and test my brush. I wonder if it'll actually ruin my brush. I probably won't ruin my brush with it. Let's get my cleaning pot out, give it a purge. We're rapidly coming to the end of the show. So if you've got anything that you want to say, talk about, chat with the friends in the live chat, now's a really good time to do it. Michael has put a mental image of a Carnifex skipping around a battlefield singing "I'm so pretty." Well, what? Yeah. Whatever makes you happy, man. Yeah, he's got a little bit of love, a little bit of treatment. Failing the success of this product, I do have, and I said it before, one of these really cheap poster paints that I bought from a local shop. If you live in the UK, this is from the works. But it's just one of those bulk things you could buy for like a couple of quid. I know that Jeff uses them, who's watching in our comments, for making terrain because they're just so affordable. But what makes them really special is the fact that they're just so rich in pigment. A tiny dollop of this just on the end of one of my little brushes, put it in my wet palette, and it lasts for ages, and the intensity of it is really quite stark. I was going to like turn it into a wash just by kind of adding some thinner to it, and I was going to use it in the same way that you would use non-oil if this product that I've just used wasn't so successful. But it's really successful. I've not had an experience like that with a product straight out of the pot, not having a go on it, and then it being as good as it is. So I want to have a go at just applying that by brush. I just need to get a little palette out because I don't want to use my wet palette for it. I've got a... Where's my little plastic palette gone? Here it is! I have got it. Plastic palette, just so I can just put a tiny little drop on and just have a little go. And I'll paint it on to something, I'm sure. Cool. Oops. Give it a really good shake because probably it has a strong pigment that probably settles. And here we go. So I'm just going to pop a little dollop just here. That's it. That would go so far in the airbrush. Let's see what it does by brush. What shall I practice on? Let's just go back to the Carnifex, because if I just do it on something out of the way, I can always go back over with some paint later on. Okay, let me just get a nice fine point on my brush. So yeah, really needle-like brush tip, and I'm just gonna get a little bit on the end there. It's really easy to move around because it's so thin, but it's just such a strong colour. And I'm just going to apply it to this crappy claw over here, and then because I've got like a baseline to compare to. So I'll just get rid of that dense forest of cat hair. My cat gets everywhere. Here we go. So starting just here, and I'm just basically going to run it into the claw area here. Interesting, it's actually quite smooth. It's a very similar effect, so it actually might be really good for those small detail areas that I'm not going to be able to get in with an airbrush so well. As the bristles of the brush are quite soft, they spread when I press into it, and it kind of gives the same sort of impression as spread on the airbrush, which is quite nice, leaving quite an intense area right in the recesses in there. And I can actually just do like a quick pass, like a needle pass like that, and that actually leaves quite a nice defined line. And then I can just put a little bit of pressure on the bristles and get a nice bit of spread, and that's something that later on I can blend out. So actually, really glad you suggested that, thank you very much. So that means that on tops of these guns later on, I can just kind of come in with a brush and give a nice pass with a very, very similar effect. And then if I just put a little line into these the kind of carapace splits, really impressed with how this works. And again, I can always neaten it up with the grey colour later. It just goes where you want it to. So much better than Null Oil. Sorry Games Workshop, sorry Citadel. Oh, I've got the shakes. I'm so excited. And of course the bottle did suggest that I can mix it with water to just, you know, probably make it a little bit easier to move around. I could even try it with probably like an acrylic thinner as well for the airbrush. Might give me some softer transitions. Very impressed. What I'll try now is I'll just wash it out of the brush. Hopefully that has removed it entirely from my bristles. I don't want it to stain. I have a feeling it will, but I've got some brush cleaner to help clean that out. Now just some wet bristles, not soaking wet, but just kind of moist. I'm just going to see what happens if I move it around on the model now, knowing that it takes ages to dry. It's actually really easy to clean up. Yeah, it's just like using an acrylic thinner for cleaning. Spread it around a little bit. Get some nice soft blends in there. I would use this technique, I think, on some really small details, like I said now, just on the tops of these guns, where there's a little bit of carapace on the top here. So, for example, I can drop that in here, create some nice defined edges and some soft blends. Yeah, that's really good. Oh, this is lovely. And what I did a minute ago was I actually got the bristles wet, and I just put some water on the surface here, and that has helped me through capillary action, getting it right into the creases in there. This is wonderful. Well done, Ammo Mig. This is brilliant. So yeah, you probably can't see it that well, and I apologise, because here I am talking about how wonderful it is, and you can't see it that well. I'll take some photos in a minute. That's an absolutely brilliant product. Yeah, every now and again, I suppose that's just going to happen, right? You're just going to find something and it just really works. But let's see how well it cleans out of the bristles, because it is an ink, and I suppose inks are going to be quite staining. So we used this last week, if you remember, Green Stuff World brush cleaner. It's good for everything: oils, enamels, acrylics. So yeah, and I just put a little blob of it on the tabletop. I'm just going to gently work these bristles into that, and it's just the soap, just by pushing down a little bit and making sure that I'm dragging. I'm not pushing forwards that way, because that would obviously damage the tip of this very good brush. It's quite expensive as well, so £5 roughly, I think. but what I'm trying to do is get it up close to the ferrule where paint or ink or whatever, especially if it's watered down, it's going to have a lot more flow rate and it's going to travel up into the ferrule. And if it gets in there and dries, and acrylic will dry very, very quickly, it is another area for paint to build up on, and then that dries, and then you get like a snowball effect, and then that's when your bristles start to push out, and it can be very, very hard, if not almost impossible to remove. But some brush cleaners will break that down. So yeah, you want to make sure that you're looking after your brushes. When you're using this stuff, you can sort of see by wiping on a tissue, or if you've got like a white background piece of paper or tile, but you can see the colour coming out. Just dip it in a bit of water, get it a bit sudsy, lather it up, because it is a soap and you want it to do exactly what a soap does by agitating it, by getting it all bubbly, really working into the bristles. And it doesn't take an awful lot for a brush this size either. It's a really good cleaner as well. It's really effective on all of the paint bases, like I say, enamels, oils, acrylics. There we go, and then just gently wash it off, and then I like to just kind of apply a bit of water to the surface there, just to where I've been doing it, to keep the area clean. Into a tissue, and if there's any residue, you can often see it coming off into your tissue. It's a really good sort of gauge. And then clean that up. And because I've got a sable brush and I want to make sure that should I do this one as well? Why not? Get into the habit of looking after your brushes, Danny. Boop, a little dollop there. I've got a brush restoring gel as well, which is really good for just kind of protecting or reshaping your brush. I've really got into the habit of looking after my expensive brushes, because, like I said earlier on, my older synthetic brushes, I've never really looked after them. But taking a little bit of care into my brushes has helped me develop as a painter as well, so it all helps. So, 2 clean brushes, brush repair gel. This is quite a tacky to touch product. What you can do is you can again just apply it to a surface, a palette or anything you like, and it is quite glue-like, I suppose. Come on. And apparently this is the stuff that they use at the factory where your brushes are made to achieve your brand new brush points. Just put a little bit, I don't have to go crazy with it, just a little bit in there, just kind of cover the area of your brush. And then in the palm of your hand, create a little crease, and then just twist it, making sure you're rotating the brush all the way around, and then drawing it away from your hand. And what you'll end up with is a sticky palm, because it's quite tacky, but you'll also end up with a really fine point, and then let that dry, and then when you next come to it, it'll be quite solid. Just wash it out in water, dry it, and it's really easy to clean out, and it just helps maintain your brush. And again, on this one here, I have tried actually like repairing my synthetic brushes, and it does to a certain degree, but synthetic brushes, once they're damaged, there's really no going back to it. So yeah, again on this one here, it's got a bit of a bigger belly, you can see the size difference in them. Draw it towards you. You will prolong the life of your synthetic brushes if you buy them from new, and you treat them well when you're cleaning them in your jar, so you're not kind of smashing them around, or you're not painting, aggressively with them. And then by using these sort of products at the end, you will maintain the life of your synthetic brushes as well. I'm just going to get my rubbish brush here just to clean that gel off the surface there. There we go. Look at this Carnifex, look at it. Look. Just look at it. It's amazing. So, there's Carl the Carnifex and Tilly the Trigon, or Steve, as it was one of the other names in there. Got a lot of work to go on them, but now that I've used that product, that ash black intensity ink, I'm really looking forward to it. Do I put the tank away for a while? Maybe I need to give up my new job. Who knows? Brilliant. I would absolutely love to know what you've been painting this evening, what your projects have been. So do please head on over to Facebook, to Easy8's Facebook page and take photographs, whatever it is you've been working on. Let us know your troubles, let us know your victories. I've had some troubles and some victories today. I'm really impressed with how that's gone. Really stoked. Give it a go if you fancy getting some. It looks like you can apply it by brush, so yeah, it's not just for airbrushes either. Yeah, been a really good evening for me. Thank you ever so much for stopping by and being a part of this evening. It's been a bit calmer, a bit more chill, but we have some of these. Sometimes we have chill evenings, we have more energetic evenings, and I apologise for the absence of Kyle, and he did apologise. And as far as I'm aware, he has been watching, has been busy. Hopefully next Friday, when I return here for another episode of Easy8 Online Painting Club, Kyle will join us then, and I hope to see all of your names appearing in the live chat again. As always, recently, because of my work, I hope that I'll be able to put it on Friday, as I always intend it to be. But if I'm going to struggle with that as a day, I will hopefully have a couple of days to prepare you for it. I'll put announcements out on Facebook. I'll put a little video announcement out there telling you what day that I will change it to. But I think at the moment everything is good for the near future to carry on Fridays. It will just be last minute changes. So yeah, once again, if you like what we do here, do please consider subscribing to the channel, because every little bit really does help me make the most out of the channel, make it better for you week on week on. So yeah, you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. Like, follow and subscribe, and that would be great. So yeah, I've had a cracking time. Thanks very much for stopping by. Don't forget to get all your models and get all your paints for next week. Bring them along and let's slap some paint on them and work our way through your backlogs of models to be painted. I've been Danny. You guys have been fantastic. This has been Easy8, and I'll see you again next week. Until then, peace out. See you soon. Bye-bye. Absolutely fantastic product. Loving it. I'm going to stay up all night.